Right now, Republican presidential candidate Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin joins us now. Hey, Scott, it's great to have you here. And actually, I was early on in the debate because, you know, you watch our show. You've had some great performances. You've had some spotty performances. After that moment, I actually sat up in my chair. I said, oh, my God. He's brought his A game. This is going to be a great debate. And I'm not saying this to be facetious. And then after that, it's like they turned your mic off. It had to be unbelievably frustrating to start out that way and then have the carpet ripped out from under you.
Well, it was, and not so much for me, because I thought the American people were shortchanged. I mentioned that because I said, hey, we're talking about personalities. We need to be talking about not process, but policy. I think there's a real sense of urgency in America, not anger, but urgency, that Americans are concerned about the economy. They're concerned about the threats from ISIS and radical Islamic terrorism. They're concerned the federal government's gone too big and too far into their lives. And amongst Republicans in particular, there's an urgency out there that, hey, Republicans told us if we have the House and the Senate in Washington, they'd have a vote to repeal Obamacare. Here it is after Labor Day, and they haven't. Those are all things we should have been talking about in the debate, and we didn't. I'm going to be talking about it on the campaign trail, whether it's here in Michigan or tonight in South Carolina and Iowa or the weekend, because that's what people want to talk about.
Well, you know, Governor, it's interesting. About halfway through the debate, I thought that, you know, Kasich stepped forward, Christie stepped forward, and they said, enough of this nonsense. When are we going to start talking about issues? Were you feeling the same way when, you know, Peggy Noonan brought it up? Candidate A. Candidate B said this about Candidate C. What do you say? Candidate B. It was like they were trying to start a food fight, and
No, Joe, you're exactly right. It really was at the beginning. That's why I jumped in with the comments you just played about Trump. I said, this is what's wrong with this campaign. We're not really talking about issues, and it was pitting one against the other, which for me was one of my sons. My 21-year-old son, Matthew, made a great insight. He said, Dad, after that, they didn't ask you a lot of questions because you didn't attack other candidates. I haven't been out in the trail attacking other Republicans. I've been attacking Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, which is why, again, this week, Hillary Clinton was attacking me, because I've got a plan to stand up nationally and take on the big government union bosses, just like we did in Wisconsin. I've got a plan to take on Obamacare, which is why they pushed on me. In fact, I started on day one, not only sending my plan up to Congress, but signing an order to make Congress live under the same rules as everybody else. That would get them acting on repealing Obamacare and putting patients and families back in charge of their health care. Those are the things people want to talk about. We're going to keep talking about it.
Governor Walker, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you this morning. You said almost immediately after the debate and again yesterday that your campaign was going to kind of really focus and zero in on the state of Iowa, spend more time and resources in that state. In June, you were on top of the poll, 18 percentage points. It looked like you were built for that state. Now you're down at 3%, a 15% drop in just a couple of months. What happened there?
Oh, I think this is just about shaking things up. I mean, remember, 4 years ago, Rick Perry was ahead. 8 years ago, Rudy Giuliani was ahead. I even thought about the other night at the Reagan Library. Ronald Reagan was behind, I think, something like 8.6 days before the presidential election. So for us, polls are going to go up. They're going to go down. We're going to spend the time. We just announced 99 county chairs. Every county in the state of Iowa now has a county coordinator for our campaign. We're going to get right down to the grassroots, right down at the precinct level. We're going to be there again this weekend, and I believe we spend the time and the effort to talk about the economy, to talk about what it means, you know, for that family in Dubuque where Dad works at the factory, Mom might work at the local community hospital. They've got 2 kids in school fighting hard to make ends meet. When we talk about how our plan will help grow the economy by getting the federal government out of the way, by repealing Obamacare, lowering the tax rate, those are the things that people want to hear about.
Sorry to interrupt you, Governor, but what's your personal diagnosis for that big drop? I mean, that's not within the margin of error. 15 points when you were at 18 is a massive drop.
Oh, again, I think it's, you go talk to people in Iowa like I did, go out on the road with me, and you'll say, you know what, you're one of my top 1 or 2 or 3 candidates. I think they're interested in me. I think they're interested in Ben Carson and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. A lot of those folks in Iowa right now are telling you after these first couple rounds of debates, what they like is there's a lot of good candidates out there. What we have to do is make the case between now and February 1st that we've got the organization to get enough voters out to win that caucus, and I believe we will win the caucuses on February 1st in Iowa.
Governor Walker, good morning. It's Jeremy Peters. As you know, Congress is embroiled in this fight over Planned Parenthood funding right now, and congressional Republicans are many of them who want to pass a budget that would strip Planned Parenthood of its funding. If they do that, and it goes to President Obama, he'll veto it, the government shuts down. Do you think that congressional Republicans should send him a bill with or without Planned Parenthood funding?
Well, this is exactly what's wrong with Washington right now. I defunded Planned Parenthood more than 4 years ago in a Democrat state, in a state that hasn't gone Republican for president since 1984. Why? Because it was the right thing then. We took the money, we put it in the women's health issues away from Planned Parenthood that weren't controversial. They should be able to do the same thing. Pass a bill in the House, pass a bill in the United States Senate. Forget about the 60-vote rule. Remember, Democrats used 51 votes to pass Obamacare. There's no reason
that's not going to happen. You saw Senator Kelly Ayotte today say to Ted Cruz, who supports what you are supporting right now, that that's just impossible. It's not going to happen.
And that's the problem with the United States Senate overall, not just on this issue. They use this arcane rule that I think most Americans look at and say, hey, in state houses all across America, it's a simple majority. I think Americans want people to do the things they said they're going to do. Same thing with Obamacare. Pass it on 51 votes, send it up to the president, have him veto it, then have him have the blame on it. I don't think we should shut the government down. I think we need to put it in the president's desk and show where his priorities are. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama support Planned Parenthood. These awful videos show pro-life like me, or many other Americans who may be up in the air. And I think universally there's outrage with what we saw in those videos. We need to send a clear message. We're for women's health. We just don't want it through a controversial organization like Planned Parenthood.
Mark.
Governor Mark Halpert here. Good morning. In a Walker administration, would U.S. intelligence agencies use their capabilities to spy on Chinese government computers or state-run enterprise computers to try to protect the United States?
Well, I think we should make sure that our intelligence community have all the assets to make sure that Americans are safe. But when you look at what happened with China literally hacking in the cyber attacks against the United States government and how it exposed millions of Americans to their personal information, my point about that was, why would we be giving an official state visit, which includes a 21-gun salute in the South Lawn of the White House, to a country that's been behind something like that? Add to all that the fact that they've gone into international waters and built islands out in the sea, in the South China Sea. Look at their abysmal record when it comes to human rights,
spy on the Chinese if you were president?
Well, again, I would make sure that the United States intelligence community had the assets it needed to make sure that we're safe and we have the information we need to make intelligent decisions about not just intelligence, but about our military capacities, which, by the way, with China, in the last decade, they've increased their spending by 150% on their military. The way they're headed right now, we don't make any changes in our military spending, they're going to have a bigger Navy than we do within 5 years. I think that's a legitimate concern and exposes the fact that the leading from behind mentality of Obama and Clinton just isn't working.
All right, Governor Scott Walker, you actually got a chance to talk here. Thank you very much.
It was great. Great hearing
If people want more, scottwalker.com. You can actually hear about our plan to repeal Obamacare and make Congress live by the same rules again.
There we go.